If you play these DPS characters, you are ruining my life! Marvel Rivals could not have come out at a more important time for me. Overwatch 2 had pretty much officially died to me at that point. And then not too long after, I got what was essentially the original Overwatch, but with a Marvel Soy Jack skin added on top of it. So yeah, hero shooters are kind of back. Now, like a lot of other people, the main aspect I love about the game is the huge cast size that references so many parts of the Marvel Universe, which a large cast is kind of the point for a hero shooter, to be fair. But also, like everybody else playing this game, I'm pretty obsessed with the million-dollar question on the table. Who's the next character?
Here comes a new challenger!
Between like the different event Easter eggs, hidden code leaks, whatever people try to say they are, and the ongoing storylines in the game, there are hundreds of characters I've seen people say are 100% definitely coming to the game. A major aspect of this theorizing is that the Rivals devs seem pretty dead set on making sure to add in lesser known characters, even if they originate from a mobile game. This makes it much harder to sniff out who's really coming next, since, at least at the time of recording this, the most recent leaks are showing characters like White Fox and Hive coming soon. And with the game progressing fairly quickly, I just want to go ahead and get out my top 5 heroes that I personally would really want to see in Rivals before they go ahead and get confirmed and I just look like some kind of hack. Also, just before really getting into it, I want to say these are just the heroes I want in. If you like this video and some of the ideas I have rattling around in my little noggin by the end of this and you want to see more of this kind of stuff, I'm thinking about doing a part 2 just for different villains I'd love to see in the game, because I think Rivals' weakest aspect is that they don't really have a lot of villains. And there's a ton in Marvel's backlog that'd be perfect, even outside of just Spider-Man and X-Men villains, which we definitely at least need one of each. So with all my preambling out of the way, I think we can go ahead and jump right into our first character that I really want to throw in. And it's going to be one not a lot of people have been talking about, but I think there's a lot of evidence that he could be in, but it's more just based on I think he'd be cool, and it's kind of the most unique idea that I had going into this. So let's go ahead and get right into it. AntMan is a super slept-on character in the wider Marvel Universe. I wonder why? Even despite the crappy movies, I think AntMan's abilities are really cool, and some of the interpretations of him can be fairly compelling characters, particularly Hank Pym in Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Also, Hank's connection to Ultron could be used as his link to the story of the game, since Ultron seems to be an upcoming character himself and the main threat for the current Krakoa event. Now, to get more to the small details of Hank Pym as a character and how his strange history can be worked into an AntMan that fits him best. Firstly, AntMan can just be a duelist. Despite my intro gripes, it's just the role that makes the most sense for his character and abilities. Now, Hank has flipped around his superhero persona more frequently than most other characters, so I wanted to kind of represent his history and his design and abilities. This starts off with his main fire being the Stinger gun he used while he was Yellow Jacket. This could just be a simple pistol with decent damage and an average fire rate. Next, the main gimmick for AntMan is obviously his ability to shrink, which is going to be pretty weird to work into a team shooter, so please bear with me through this explanation. Starting off, you shrink. Duh. In this smaller form, you're nearly impossible to be spotted by enemies, but your own field of view would probably need to be obscured in some way, so you don't just see low-quality textures whenever you're running around. And the benefits you get in this form, you could have your melee damage and movement speed increased a lot just to justify being that small. Also, to help get around in this form, while you're small, you could have the unique ability to summon an ant to fly around on until you dismiss it. It is unlimited flight, but it could be counterbalanced by just not being able to attack while on the ant. Now for your regular abilities is the Pimp Hand God. A basic crowd control option would help a lot for your utility. This could just come in the form of a cloud of ants that stay floating in a fixed position that deals continuous damage to all enemies who touch it. Think about it as a kind of mix between placing Groot's walls with the effects of Sue Storm's vortex. And your last ability could play on more modern interpretations of Ant-Man, being able to shrink environmental details. So you do exactly that. This is just a flavorful way of saying you have an ability that instantly destroys a destructible environment detail. I'd imagine this would need a longer cooldown, so you can't just destroy all the walls in the stage instantly and pretty much get around scot-free. Now, ending the normal ability list is your ultimate, which could be really simple. Giant Man. You just become huge and can stomp around and smash the ground, and all your impacts leave large shockwaves that could push back enemies. This is one of those kind of ultimates that are good for getting enemies off of a checkpoint. A big, like, final push kind of attack. I feel all these abilities, when they come together, really help make a character with some great stealth and control options, while also getting to play off a lot of Hank Pym's own sordid history. Now we can get into the fun fan fiction aspect of Rivals, the character team-up system. Now for each of the characters throughout the rest of the video, I'll only give 2 team-ups each, and I don't want to double up on characters between them because it'd be pretty lame if we just have one character get team up with every character I make up today. And I'm not going to team any up with any ones that I make up today because that's just lame. Now for the first team up with Hank, I think it'd be really fun to see Iron Man gain the ability to destroy environment details. Lore-wise, this could come from a lot of him and Ant-Man working together in the past, for better and for worse. And for his other team up, an ability with Hawkeye based on the art of Ant-Man riding on Hawkeye's arrows would be really cool. This could kind of work like the fastball special, where when both parties agree to the team up, Ant-Man jumps on the arrow, and the next main fire shot by Hawkeye will drop Ant-Man where it lands. This could just be a fun little ability to help Ant-Man get around more quickly in his small form. Now, moving on from my current obsession, we can get into something I think people actually want to see in the game. Or maybe just me having a clear preference in superhero teams, so I'll let you be the judge of that. But I say, bring on the X-Men. This game, in its current state, has a horrible lack of X-Men representation because they don't have any of the X-Men I like in the game yet. So maybe we could go ahead and fix that to some degree. For the next 3 I picked, it was a mix of gameplay potential, general popularity, and my personal preferences, obviously. But to not waste any time here, let's go ahead and get into my most wanted character in the game, a new kind of Vanguard, Cyclops. Now I love Cyclops so much. He's my favorite X-Men, in fact. So that's really going to make this especially hard since his immune ability is pretty simple without many insane variations on it. So for his moveset, I try to have some fun with it and kind of made some stuff up, but I feel like it's all stuff that's in the realm of reason with his abilities. Starting off, his main fire is going to be a simple 3-punch combo attack, but his main gameplay point is going to come from his alt fire.
Optic Blast.
Your alt fire, Optic Blast, will be a continuous stream of damaging energy that won't stop until you release it or you overheat. Now, I don't want to get into the whole debate on how Cyclops' eyeballs work, but for the people who do have a problem with me using overheat, it's just for gameplay terms. I know in some versions his eyes don't produce heat. It's like kinetic energy, and trust me, I think that's cooler. The punch dimension in his eyes is badass as hell. I would much rather have that than heat, but I'm just saying overheat because everybody's going to know what that means. Now, overheating will cause your optic abilities to become unavailable until your status is completely restored. So think of overheating as just a status effect that whenever it wears off a certain time, then you'll get your abilities back. And this balance is going to be the main point of challenge for playing Cyclops, since you'll have to, again, balance your heat meter and the enemy distance from you, since I made old Psych here a bit of a mid-range Vanguard. Kind of like a mix of Magneto and Captain America in that way. Your other optic abilities would be Optic Burst and Optic Flare. Optic Burst is a short-range blast that deals good damage and a lot of knockback as a way of getting enemies off of you whenever you gotta crowd control some. Optic Flare is a short-range flash that stuns all enemies in range but deals no damage as another form of crowd control, really. This literally is just the solar flare from Dragon Ball, so if you know how that works, same thing. These two are going to be the main combat abilities you can use to control an objective area by pushing enemies around and stunning them for your allies to take them out. For a non-optic and more reliable ability, I would just have one called To Me or whatever. This is one where your nearby allies just gain some temporary HP and have their movement and reload speeds increased for a short time. It's essentially just a decent morale boost to your allies to help rally them together. And this is something every Vanguard needs something to help his teammates out, you know. Cyclops' ultimate could just be a massive long-range straight blast of tremendous damage that also knocks back all enemies that touch it. Call it Mega Optic Blast. Hire me, rivals. And the two team-ups I came up for Cyclops were actually pretty easy since Wolverine really has to be one of them. I think Cyc could give Wolverine the ability to temporarily charge up his claws, leaving enemies he hits with bonus damage they take after being hit. The other team-up could be with Captain America, where the two recreate their iconic clash from the Avengers vs. X-Men storyline. This could work by having Captain America deflect Cyclops' Optic Blast while his shield is raised to where it reflects to wherever he's looking. This could end up a bit gimmicky, but I think if you got two tanks who really know what they're doing, you should be able to pull it off pretty decently. Now, with my boy Scott filled out, we can get to his wife, Jean Grey or Phoenix. I feel like Jeannie here is one of the most anticipated characters to come to Rivals, for multiple reasons really. She's already a fan favorite from the original X-Men cartoon, and she's made an impressive showing in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which I really ended up taking a lot of inspiration from for a moveset here. Also, just as like a really short side tangent real quick, I'd really love to see more MVC references in Rivals, like the Cyan skin for Venom, even if this has the potential to be a copyright issue. I mean anything, dude. I'm asking for anything. This could just be like stickers or skins that reflect their designs in Marvel vs. Capcom, or change some voice lines like Spider-Man's ult yelling Maximum Spider, since that's pretty much exactly what the ability is. Regardless, back to the point at hand. Jean Grey would be a character type that I feel like we desperately need. A flying strategist hero.
And as a flying strategist, Ultron opens up fresh possibilities for your aerial lineups.
She could move the same way as all the other flying characters, like Storm or Human Torch, but play a more defensive role given the abilities I'll show. Her main fire could just be pretty standard, where she fires off fast psychic bolts that deal light damage and have good range to make up for her long distance as a flying character. Main healing ability here would be to form psychic bubbles over your targeted allies. These bubbles heal the allies a good amount and give them a small amount of temporary HP for the bubble's duration. The main defensive ability is a large protective dome that forms with Jean as the epicenter. The dome is large enough to cover most mission areas and has its own HP pool that has to hit 0 before it dissipates. And this is another one that would probably need a long cooldown to help balance it out. And to help protect yourself, Jean could have a Telekinetic Reflector that collects all projectiles that hit it and shoots them back out after a certain time with increased damage. This could be like a horizontal and larger versions of Mr. Fantastic's reflexive rubber ability, without being nearly as damn freaky. Now, the ultimate for Jean is the main mechanic for her, since it transforms her into the powerful Phoenix. Starting off, this ult should have the longest charge in the game, since it gives a permanent change to your character for the rest of the match, or if you switch characters, where you'll revert to Jean Grey. Phoenix also will have her own enhanced versions of Jean's basic abilities, starting off with her main fire, which becomes Phoenix Bolts, which are just as fast but deal more damage. Psychic Bubbles becomes Phoenix Bubbles, which act the same but also boost allies' damage. Protective Dome becomes Burning Rain, where instead of a protective area, it creates an AoE of continuously falling Phoenix Bolts. And Telekinetic Reflector becomes Phoenix Sword, which can act as the old team-up with Magneto and Scarlet Witch, where Phoenix's main fire is replaced with a large fiery sword that also reflects all projectiles that it hits. And lastly, for Phoenix's own ultimate, it could just be a massive forward blast of a Phoenix that deals massive damage to all enemies it hits and heals all allies in its path. Jean's team-ups were a pretty hard one to pick out for a couple reasons, really. One being, as I said previously, I don't want to double up on team-ups if I've already used them for a different character. So that's going to take Wolverine out of this. Another is that there aren't a lot of characters she has a strong relationship with already in the game so far. So I really tried my best with these, but if you have any better ideas, I'd love to hear them. First being with Storm, where all allies that have a Psychic Bubble or a Phoenix Bubble also gain Storm's movement buff, regardless of their range from Storm herself. And the other being with Scarlet Witch, where Wanda gains a small shielding state, where all projectiles that hit her are erased before she takes the damage. I feel like these abilities make for a pretty interesting defensive support character, with the potential of shifting into a very offensive one if you get your ultimate out. Which I really like, because that it's a good way of representing that shift in personality between Jean and, well, I guess it'd be more Dark Phoenix, but Phoenix. Now the next character coming up is actually one I don't really like a lot in most of their interpretations, but he's super popular. Is already pretty much soft confirmed for the game, so I feel like I'm kind of obliged to do this, but his style of humor can and has led to some pretty fun gameplay styles in the other games, so I figured I might as well go ahead with it. So now I give you Deadpool. Alright, old Deadpool. Now for him, I really want to focus on his ability to cause chaos for both his allies and enemies, which is a point most of his stories focus on. Better and worse. For basics, his main fire is just going to be dual pistols, which he alternates between for each shot. Which, I mean, is Deadpool. You knew this. You know how he works for the most part. And for his melee, just for flavor, it's going to be his katanas. Now, for an ability to help him get in and out of situations quickly, would be a sliding kick that could end in an upward kick if it actually lands on an enemy. I didn't feel the need to state it, but it's Deadpool. He's a DPS character. Everybody knows he's going to be the DPS character if he's in the game. So, we're going to make him the most DPS we can. Now, his main gimmick ability that I came to love a little bit as I worked on it, honestly, is one I called Merc Taunt, which just launches a slow-moving speech bubble projectile that causes enemies to rage whenever it hits them. This rage status effect could take a bunch of different forms, but the one I ended up liking best was having the target's vision obscured so they focus on Deadpool, if he's on screen. Visually, it could just take the form of focus lines that create a focal point on him whenever he's on screen and kind of disappears if you turn away from him. It's really hard to describe. I'll have some interpretation on the screen now of like how I think it would work. It'd be a lot of animated. It'd mostly just be a way to be like, Deadpool gets in, where he stays far away, hits them with rage, and then they have to focus on him when they're getting, really messed up by guys right in front of them, or they can't focus on anything because it's hard to see. You get the point. And to give Deadpool an ability to help him escape a situation easily, I want to give him a surprise grenade. This is just a normal grenade that he rolls at his feet that causes a massive explosion, deals only a little damage, but pretty substantial knockback. And the main point of chaos with this grenade is that it affects everybody. Deadpool, enemies, and your allies are all affected by the knockback of this grenade. Like I said, the damage is minuscule, so it shouldn't kill people a lot of the times, but it could be enough to piss off your teammates if you use it in the wrong place, which would be in line for Deadpool as a character, and what I assume the people who are going to play him to be like. And again, if you're playing Deadpool right, it's supposed to get you out of an engagement. Like I said, they're DPS players. They're not going to fucking play him, right? To survive this constant abuse to your body, your passive ability should come in pretty handy. Deadpool's degenerative healing factor, it's literally just a simpler version of Wolverine's since he doesn't have the whole rage thing to base it on. It's just an ability where you start rapidly healing any of your lost HP whenever you spend a short amount of period of time without taking damage. So as long as you can get to a safe place where you're not getting shot at constantly, you'll be able to regain everything you've lost and eventually heal yourself all the way back to max HP. Another main distinction between this healing ability and Wolverine's is that this healing factor doesn't give bonus HP, but it also doesn't have a cooldown. So as long as you can back away, you can pretty much continuously heal yourself forever. Like I said, the problem is going to be being able to get in and get out. Now, the piece de resistance is Deadpool's ultimate grenade, where he literally just grabs the ultimate icon at the corner of the screen and throws it like an arched grenade toss. And it continuously shoots out taunt bubbles all around it for a decent time frame. And again, these taunt bubbles will have the same effect as they normally would, so whenever they hit somebody, they rage them. They don't do damage, but if you throw that right in the middle of the enemy team, you can rage all of them, and your allies will have the perfect opportunity to get the jump on them. Now, for team-ups, Deadpool is another rough one, but for a different reason. He's interacted with, I think, every character in the Marvel Universe. He's killed them, I'm pretty sure. I think they made a comic about that. So, trying to keep these two more unique than just team up with Spider-Man, team up with Wolverine, blah, blah, blah. I want to base it more on characters that fit his humor and characters that I think fit with him in the current lore of the comics. I'm not too savvy on the current state of Marvel Comics, so this could just be misinformation I've been given. First could be a team up with Jeff the Reddit Shark, since I believe Deadpool is the current caretaker of this horrible creature in the comics. This team up could just give Deadpool a water balloon that has massive knockback like his super grenade, but actually heals everybody it hits instead of damaging. And the other team up could just be with Squirrel Girl, since she's another comedy character. And this could just give Squirrel Girl an acorn grenade that causes massive knockback but deals no damage. I feel like these are two good abilities that help give the playstyle of different characters to Deadpool, or Deadpool's playstyle to other characters. Like, I think Squirrel Girl is definitely a character who could benefit from some push-away game. Now, getting into our last character, I picked him since he just got a show that seems to be quite popular. And honestly, because he's one of my friend's favorite heroes of all time, really. What? No, it's Daredevil. Alright, now old Matt Murdock here was a pretty tricky one to work on, since his moveset is really best suited for a scouting type of character with good movement, which it's kind of hard to have good reference for in these games, because that's a pretty unique role for him. And to that end, I try to make him a variable melee fighter with good movement and the ability to sniff out enemy intel. The main ability to help Daredevil's combat is going to be his main fire, which is a basic weapon combo, with its specific details changing with what weapon form you're using. By default, you start with Daredevil's iconic billy clubs that are fast and deal decent damage, but have a short range. For your combat, you're going to have an ability that allows you to switch your weapon form to 3 different types, starting with your billy club as your first form, next being nunchucks, which are blindingly fast, deal big knockback, and have increased range from your clubs, and your last weapon is your staff, which is slower but deals heavy damage and much longer range. Well, for a melee weapon, obviously. Your best bet with this style would be mixing up your weapon types to string combos together and find which ones work best against certain enemies. So you might be able to space out a oncoming Iron Fist, or knock away a Spider-Man who's being a little too close to your backline. Now, for a more standard ability, here's one that will help your movement and enemy isolation, Devil's Grip. This is a grappling hook attack that if it hits the environment will pull you to it, but if you hit an enemy, it'll pull the enemy towards you. It's kind of like a mixed ability between Spider-Man swinging and his grab thing. I forget what it's called. For your ability to track enemies and gain intel, you can use Super Sense to see all enemies in play regardless of the environment, and it can show you what characters they are. I was afraid of this being too overpowered, but given the limitations with your passive that obviously is going to restrict your sight to some degree, playing as a blind man, I feel like this works, and it requires your allies being good, which in this game is tantamount to suicide, so this might work. It's one that'll help gain intel, and you can inform your allies of what's coming. A great way of anticipating an enemy attack and alerting your allies to their formations. Now, the aforementioned passive abilities for Daredevil. Yes, there's 2. First, a double jump, because he's Daredevil. He's going to do that. More interestingly is his radar sense, where your vision is 100% of the time permanently obscured in some ways so that you can't see normally like every other character does. When I first came up with this, I imagined something like Endul from JoJo's Eyes of Heaven, where you can only make out the outlines of characters in the environment, but you can also see nearby enemies through walls. However, for the vision distortion part, I figured it might be a bit of a pain for rivals, since the game has a much larger range than Eyes of Heaven. It could be fine since Daredevil's supposed to be a close range character and can get details with his super sensibility if he really has to. But I'm not 100% sure on this one yet. It's just kind of the best thing I could come up with. If you have any other ideas for it, I'd love to know what you would think to do for it. And finally, for your ultimate, I think it'd be best if you could just have a super durable state as the Man Without Fear. In this state, you would gain temporary HP equal to your max HP, and you become immune to all status effects and all knockback. I came up with this since I love that a lot of Daredevil stories focus on his unyielding will, which is really his strongest power, even if it's a bit cheesy. Now, finishing off all these characters with Daredevil's team-ups, which were honestly pretty easy to come up with, since he only has a close connection with a handful of characters in the cast. First is a team-up with Punisher, where you can walk across a zip line and gain a super jump when jumping off of it. And yeah, I know this sounds really simple, but it's always irked me really bad that you can't move across it like a normal physics object. And I figured since Daredevil and Punisher aren't like friends, but they have a close, I guess, working connection, I guess. It would make sense then you could benefit from his passive effects more so than actually having a direct team up, you know? The other combination ability would be with Iron Fist, even if he isn't the one Daredevil is most familiar with. Here, Daredevil can use a weaker version of Iron Fist Harmony Recovery, and Iron Fist himself can see nearby enemies through walls when using Harmony Recovery. So they both gain something out of the ability, which is my biggest problem with the team-up system, since normally only one person gets something out of it and the other just has to be there. So this way, both of them get something passive without it being broken, I think. All right, and that's all she wrote on this one. I had a lot of fun coming up with these. I've been sweating this game horribly recently. I really need to take a step back. It's been awful with this Krakoa event, man. I'll tell you what. But yeah, these are just some of my favorite characters that I want to get in, and Deadpool. He was there too, I guess. But I mean, I feel like these could be really cool. I think a lot of them were really fun ideas for different types of characters than we already have in the game. Again, except for Deadpool, he's pretty straightforward. But if they put in Jean Grey as I ever listed, I'd probably be a Jean Grey main day one, because I really need a flying character, because that's like the perfect space to be. If you're literally helping for the back lines, and I know Iron Fist can still get you up there. I've seen it happen. So like, what are they risking? You know? But yeah, like I said, these are just the heroes I want in the game. If you liked what you saw here and you want to see anything else like this, let me know. Or, I mean, just leave a like, comment. I mean, I don't know how engagement shit works on here. So, I mean, find some way to let me know that you like it. And boy, howdy, I'll get on that part 2 with the villains sometime here. I got some good ideas for villains. Obviously, we need a Spider-Man one. Obviously, we need X-Men one. But I feel like my X-Men choice is pretty unique. Spider-Man, not at all. Spider-Man choice is the one everybody's come up with, but I ain't saying yet. But if you liked any of the art you saw here and you want to see it outside of YouTube or whatever, I guess, you can go ahead and check out my Twitter or my Newgrounds. I'll have that link in the description or in my channel if you want to look at that. And if you want to see anything else like this, you can go ahead and check me out. I've got other videos, hypothetical game design, stuff like this. So if you want to see anything else like that, check out the channel. Maybe subscribe while you're there. I don't know. But thank you for watching all the way through. If you have, I hope you liked the video. And I hope you liked the video on top of that. But if you didn't, feel free to dislike or write me nasty comments about why I'm stupid or whatever. Criticism is criticism, I guess. And if you have anything useful or helpful to say, I don't want to say useful, that sounds mean. But if you have anything helpful to say, I'd love to hear that. I get some great feedback from comments every once in a blue moon. And I think that's the one that sticks with me the most, the positive criticism. But I think that's all for my rambling. That's all the heroes I have for today. So again, thank you for watching, and I guess I'll be seeing you when I see you.